Robert Plank Show, episode 320, Credo, How to Hire an SEO Consultant or Agency with John Doherty. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're talking right now with John Doherty, and John is the founder of GetCredo.com. That's spelled GetCredo.com. He's also the author of JohnFDoherty.com, and he's a Denver, Colorado-based entrepreneur and marketing consultant. And he's created Credo, which connects great businesses with the best vetted digital marketing consultants and agencies online. So, John, welcome to the show.
Robert, thanks for having me. Thanks for that introduction.
Awesome. I'm glad to provide it and glad to have you. And so this Credo thing, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So Credo is meant to be a platform where businesses that are looking to hire mostly an SEO consultant or agency, but really any kind of marketing that they need. So, email marketing or content or link building, which of course goes in with SEO, all these different things can come, and there's basically a list there of people, of agencies and consultants that do that kind of work. And basically I started it about 4 years ago because I got tired of seeing my friends that own small businesses hire bad agencies. And so basically wanted to make a run at, hoping to clean up the the marketing world a little bit, the marketing consulting world. And so I have about 75 agencies and consultants on the platform that I've spoken with all of them on the phone, have seen their work, and basically feel comfortable recommending them to to people that are looking to get good work done. So yeah, that's what it is. I've been building it full time now for about a little over a year and a half.
Great, and it sounds like this is sort of a thing that's really needed because as you were explaining that, my mind was kind of going into thinking like, well, why wouldn't I go to Fiverr further? So why wouldn't I go to Upwork further? So why wouldn't I, kind of search for like a SEO agency that's near me? So can you kind of like explain that and why Credo is better than sort of those other alternatives?
Yeah, for sure. So Credo is purposefully upstream from places like Upwork or Fiverr or something like that. Basically, I believe that you get what you pay for, right? So if you pay someone $5 to do something for you, you're going to get $5 of quality. Versus if you're willing to pay $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month, like that's when you can hire the real experts, right? There's a saying that basically experts aren't you'll never underestimate the value of an expert until you hire an amateur, right? Like you'll think an expert is expensive until you hire an amateur. Yeah, I mean Upwork, all of these, they'll just allow anyone to get on there and say like, yeah, I'm an SEO expert and I do these things and I'll build you backlinks and X, Y, and Z, but they're not actually vetted and you can't actually be sure that they're any good. So that I think that's the place that Credo really fills in the market. So there's none of like the we'll do your SEO for $99 a month sort of crap. There's maybe a place for like I have $200 a month and I need 4 blog posts. Though I would even say that's way below what Credo is trying to help people do. But that's just not where Credo is trying to hit the market.
Awesome, makes a lot of sense, and I've definitely kind of been on the hiring end of some of that sort of stuff. Where like I'd hire someone on one of those sort of freelancing sites, and I'd be like waiting around until the deadline, or they'd like say they could do something and they couldn't. So that makes a lot of sense. And so when someone goes to GetCredo.com and they say, okay, well I need some some content written or some SEO services. Sort of what's the process that they go through in order to get signed up with you?
Yeah, totally. So there are 2 different ways that they can do it. Every consultant or agency on the platform has a public profile. So basically people can sort through there. They can go to, the main all pros page and filter down and say like, I want an agency and I have up to $3,000 a month to spend, and I need SEO and content marketing, and I'm an e-commerce shop, and they can filter down to that and see, and it'll basically filter down to all the consultants and agencies that do that kind of work. And so then they can contact them directly, right? There's a form on every profile page, and they can contact them directly and say like, hey, I'm looking, I'd like to speak with you about my project. The other way to do it is they can just create what I call a project on the platform, where basically, they say the same sorts of things. I need SEO and content marketing for $3,000 a month, and I'd prefer an agency. And here's a little bit more about my project, and submit it. And then actually myself or my team will follow up with them on the phone, by email, find out a little bit more about what they need, and then make personal recommendations and introductions to the agencies and consultants that we think would fit them best based off of services that they need and budget and style of working and all of those different things. So
Awesome.
that's a bit more of a white glove approach.
And so they could either do that white glove and have you sort of do a lot of that legwork for them, or they can kind of be more hands on and they decide who to hire, who to go after.
Exactly.
And so when you're explaining some of that stuff, like you said, like, well, maybe, their budget is 3 grand a month to do SEO. Is there an easy way of like, or for people to figure out like if they're posting the right sort of job? Because if they say, okay, well, we have this budget for content marketing or something like that, like, how do people know what to ask for, or like how many articles to ask for, or like, or that sort of thing?
It's a great question. So as far as like the budget thing is concerned, this is actually a big problem in the industry that I'm trying to work on. I actually launched a site, microsite called it's hire an S, how to hire an SEO.com, where basically people can, go through about an 8 step form and then be told like, okay, for the kind of site that you have and traffic and your goals and all of that, like, an an SEO site audit is going to cost you, $5,000 plus or minus 20%, depending on who you contact, right? But that's about what you should expect. Um, so on Credo, I don't actually allow people to say like, I mean, they can in their description if they want to, but people coming there, like I said, they're purposely up market from an Upwork or a Fiverr or something like that. So there is none of the productized like I need 4 blog posts a month, but it's more I have a SaaS business that has been going for 2 years and we finally found product market fit and we're ready, to take it to the next level. And so we need an SEO consultant to help us out, help us figure out what we need and then how much it's going to cost. So it's not like the, services or here's a growth, like, we'll do a growth strategy for you or that sort of thing. It's much more of the like consultative, strategy based stuff than the, we'll produce 4 blog posts a month for you sort of, level of work.
Makes sense. And so I'm looking at this sort of directory, and there's all kinds of stuff for like SEO and paid ads and link building and stuff like that. And is there like a top sort of service that people are always looking for, that people need to be using in their business?
I mean, so on Credo, it's a very SEO heavy platform. So most of the people coming through Credo are looking for SEO help, whether that's from a consultant, they need a site audit, or they actually need help with like fixing their site a bit, but then creating content and doing outreach and all of those different things. So I mean, SEO is a long term play, right? It's a marketing channel that works for everyone, but depending on the site and all of that, you might get more or less traffic. And it takes a while to work, right? It can take after you start investing in it, it can take a solid 3 to 6 months for you to really start seeing any tangible gains. But then, of course, it just compounds upon itself, over the life of your business. One thing that I see a lot of businesses not doing is actually retargeting. And so one thing I've been doing a lot of recently with Credo as well is Facebook advertising. And it's just like Facebook advertising is like Google AdWords 10 years ago, where it's still pretty cheap. The targeting is fantastic, way better than AdWords has ever been. And you can also retarget people pretty easily. So putting a pixel on your site, and then when someone comes to your site, you basically drop it on there, and then you can retarget them with different ads, whether that's to go download a PDF or come back and create a project or buy a pair of shoes or whatever. That's one thing that a lot of businesses aren't doing, and quite honestly, they're just leaving money on the table, not doing it.
Great, and I think that whole like paid ads thing, like I think that when I've seen people do it, and when I've messed with it a little bit myself, it's sort of like trying to do it myself was just like almost like a full-time job, as far as like making ads and deleting stuff and recreating it and sort of tending to it every single day. And I can see how having an actual like team, an actual agency to kind of handle that part would make a lot of sense. And so, can you kind of like tell us like what does that usually entail? Like, because I mean, like an SEO site audit like sounds like it's pretty cut and dry. They go and run the website through some tests and stuff like that. But as far as the like Facebook ads or like retargeting, I mean, what's the usual like I guess cost, I guess, and what does that get people when as far as those Facebook ads?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, I would say that an SEO site audit can actually get quite complicated depending on the type of site that you have, how many pages it has, what previous SEO work you've done or not, what CMS you're on, all that sort of thing. So those can go anywhere from $1,000 up to, I mean, I'll be honest, I've done an SEO site audit on a huge website, and we're talking millions of pages that cost 20 grand. So you can go from very little up to a lot. Same thing with Facebook ads. So basically the way agencies will often do it is find out a bit more about your business. What kind of business are you running? Are you selling products? Are you doing services? Are you looking for leads? What is a lead, right? So is it like just an email? Is it an email plus a first name, email plus first name plus a phone number, like whatever that is, and basically define your goals. And also, of course, find out if you've already been doing some Facebook ads or not. So, and then if you have, going in and auditing those. If you're not, then you have to start from scratch. And often that involves, doing a bit of customer research. Who are your customers? What are the audiences to set up on Facebook? Setting up initial ads, and then basically letting them run for a bit, and then optimizing off of that. What's working, what's not working. So cutting out the ones that are not working, doubling down on the ones that are, creating new ads. So new audiences, new creatives, that sort of thing. So it's not, you do it once, you get someone to set you up some ads, and you let it go, and you never look at it again. As you said, it is active management. One thing that a lot of businesses that hire an SEO consultant, or even join like a platform like mine, or uh, are trying to run ads on their own, is they don't give it enough time. When you're starting off these strategies, like, there are all sorts of different things that you can do. And you basically have to figure out what's going to work for your business. You can hire someone that has experience working, in the types of with the type of business that you are. But each business is different. So different marketing channels and strategies are going to give different returns. So the big thing I always tell businesses, like, plan to give it a solid like 3 to 6 month go, right? If you're coming back and after a month and a half and saying like, oh, like our CPAs, or our cost per acquisition CPA is too high, um, but you had never done any Facebook advertising before, you've actually just learned what your CPA, like what the high end is, and then now you can go ahead and optimize those. Your agency can go ahead and optimize those. So the big thing there is really giving it enough time to actually prove that it works, as opposed to going and giving it 30 days and being like, oh, SEO didn't work for us, like this is wasted money. Like, that is entirely that's a transactional mindset, not an investment mindset, and the transactional mindset is absolutely the wrong way to think about building a business, in my opinion.
Fair enough. And so, sort of along those lines, if someone uses your service to hire someone for paid ads, what does the sort of billing like that look like? Is it a matter of saying like, okay, like it's 5 grand, and then this ad management will last like 6 months, or is it like a startup fee and then a monthly fee? Sort of, how does that billing usually work?
Yeah, it's a good question. Once again, it all depends on the agency. So often, if you haven't had any work done before, then they will charge a setup fee. Some agencies will charge based off of like the number of like ad campaigns that you're running. Some will do like a base of I don't know, $2,000 a month, let's say, and then a percentage of the spend that you're spending. I actually don't like the percentage of spend. It's kind of like hourly billing, where I think that there are very few times that you should actually like that, like an agency or consultant should bill themselves out hourly. There are definitely those times, but my issue with a percentage of spend, especially around Facebook ads or PPC, is incentives are not aligned. You as the business are incentivized to spend as little as possible, and they're incentivized to spend as much as possible, because they're getting a percentage of how much they're spending, right? So I actually don't think that that's the right way to do it. I say, pay them fairly, pay them a good, monthly retainer that you feel comfortable paying, and that's going to help them, not spend too much time, not spend too much time on it, but spend the right amount of time on it, and go from there. So I think sometimes businesses can get a bit, or agencies, consultants can sometimes get a bit greedy by trying to do the percentage of spend. So yeah, like I said, it really depends, but for most, expect to spend, a base retainer, and then some combination of like number of accounts that are being run, or number of websites that are being worked on, number of campaigns that are being run, and some will do the percentage of spend, in which case discuss that with them.
Great stuff. And so, so sort of along those lines also, so I'm seeing like this directory, and there's like sort of different agencies do like the sales and the billing different sorts of ways. Do you make money from this, or is this like, do people pay the agencies directly, or are you the middleman, or what's happening there?
So Credo makes the introductions. Someone comes in, they say like, I'm looking for SEO for $2,000 a month, and they can contact people through the platform. It is free to the businesses that are looking to hire someone. They do pay the agencies directly once they sign a contract, and basically agencies and consultants pay a subscription fee to my platform. But the key there is that they are not allowed onto the platform until I've done a phone call with them. Basically, I vet them. I do a qualitative vetting. I have a phone call with them, talk to them about the work that they do, and then I see a couple of their clients and I run them through, the different tools that can tell me whether they're, heading in the right direction. So it might be, SEMrush or Ahrefs, Moz's Open Site Explorer, SpyFu, whatever tools are needed, whether it's SEO or, PPC. And so basically, only then are they allowed to be on the platform, and pay to be on the platform.
Cool. So basically, so you call these. So it's free for the buyers, and then the agencies are the ones that pay you, and you do the phone call, and then get some of their clients, and then run them through all those tools. And that sounds like a pretty like effective way of kind of vetting them as far as like, well, on the tool side you can tell that they know they have the skill and know what they're talking about. On the
Yep.
phone side, it sounds like you kind of feel them out and get a feeling of sort of if they're friendly, if they're good with that sort of customer service. And so, have you had any sort of issues with anyone in the directory? Like, I wonder if like you set someone up on the directory, and then like 6 months or a year later you heard some bad things. Or has there already been any hiccups with that sort of thing?
There are always a couple of bad apples. I have heard. Well, first of all, about 30% of the people that contact me, agencies, consultants that contact me about being on the platform, I turn away, simply because I don't trust their work, or like you said, like they're not a nice person, and I don't want anyone to have to deal with them like they shouldn't be a consultant. Basically, is my take on it. So that definitely happens. I have had a couple points where. There have been two cases I'll give you examples of to show you kind of what happens. So the first one was exactly what we were talking about a little bit earlier, where a person came and they were looking for help with Facebook ads. They've been running Facebook ads for a while, but they're not a marketer on their like subscription box service. And they came back a month and a half later and they're like, this project has been a disaster, blah, blah, blah. With this agency, I was like, this agency is really good at Facebook ads. Like, what is going on? And so I got in touch with the agency owner. They're a good friend of mine. And they were basically like, oh my gosh, this person has been a nightmare. We set up all these new campaigns. Like, they're performing great. They're basically like the same, level. And I looked in analytics, because the person had actually given me access to their analytics, which rarely happens. But for this one, I had access. And I looked, and CPAs were like right where I'd expect them to be once you've built out new campaigns. And then the agency was going to go in the next week and basically re-optimize the campaigns and drop the CPA. And the person just didn't give it enough time. They literally gave it 6 weeks. So like, I'm pulling the plug. So like so that one did happen. But I didn't fault the agency for that. I mean, they probably could have done a better job of setting expectations, but that one was 100% on the business owner. And it also happens on the other side as well, where I had someone on the platform recently sent me an email, and they were like, just wanted to let you know that this person that contacted us through Credo, they've been a nightmare of a client, right? Like we started off and we set their expectations around how much time they would get, and then as soon as we signed the contract, they started demanding that we talk to them every single day, and a month in, and now they want now they say that we haven't done anything, and we sent them all of these proposals, we have like the proof of it, et cetera, et cetera. And now they're asking for a full refund. And so it's like, so there can be nightmares on both sides. And unfortunately that happens. But I've had, I haven't had any cases honestly where, someone's come back and they're like, this person did work on my site, and, now my site is gone from the search results. So yeah, I think my vetting is, doing what it's supposed to do, and I'm also working on ways to kind of automate a bit more of that to really kick it into overdrive as I look to grow this business.
Awesome. So, one thing sort of about that, and as far as like you being like hands-on with the business, like right before we talked, I kind of clicked around on your blog a little bit, johnfdoherty.com, and also as far as like you've mentioned a couple of times, like, am I right in sort of hearing that did you like create this yourself? Are you the only programmer on this?
So I have I have a part-time back-end WordPress developer who's remote. He's based in Ohio. I'm in Colorado. That he helps me out with like a lot of like the back end stuff, like ranking algorithms and that sort of thing. But as far as like all the front end stuff is concerned, that's 100% me. So I was trained as a web developer back in the day, back in university 10 years ago, and then just over the last couple of years, been really working to hone my skills. And I would call myself a half decent front end developer now, as well as marketer and business person. But I'm really at this point, like I'm really becoming more of an entrepreneur than a founder. So a founder is basically the person that like they do pretty much all the work, right? You're doing what you got to do to get the business off the ground. And then once it's off the ground, you found some product market fit, then, and you have revenue, then basically what the mind shift that I've had recently is hiring people that are best in class at what they do, that I am not best in class at that, or like I just have other areas that I should be spending my time on, and then getting them to do it. So Credo is very lean. It's me, and I have a part-time, 20 hours a month WordPress developer and a part-time account manager that is the one doing most of the following up with projects created on the platform, figuring out what they need, and then making introductions.
Awesome, and I can relate to a lot of that because I'm also sort of a coder, and I realized that I didn't want to just be working by the hour or be working at a sort of a set salary. I wanted to sort of create something myself, and I've also been every now and then sort of looking at to what sort of stuff I can offload and just focus on what's what I'm good at and what's fun for me. So I can relate to quite a bit of that. And so I'm really curious about sort of where this idea came from. Like how did you come up with the idea for Credo, and like how did that sort of evolve as you built it?
Yeah, so I came up with the idea kind of came to me. It just kind of appeared because as I said at the very beginning, I had friends that were contacting me that had hired a bad SEO agency before, and they basically wanted to hire me to help them fix their site, and I did it for a couple of them. But when I do SEO consulting myself, I work on very large websites, like million plus page websites is kind of what I've been working on for a long time. And a lot of small businesses just quite honestly like shouldn't pay my rates to do the work that they need. And so I was doing some freelance consulting when I was working at an agency in New York, and basically got to the point where I didn't need the money, and I would prefer to spend those 2 weekends a month out in Brooklyn hanging out where I lived at the time, out in Brooklyn hanging out with my friends, and in my apartment, doing building links for clients. And so I decided to stop doing freelance consulting, and basically my clients asked me who they should work with. I didn't have a good answer. Had other people coming to me through my personal blog asking to work with me, and I told them I wasn't bringing on work, and they were like, "Well, who should I work with?" I was like, "Well, I don't know." So I literally built out a Google sheet of people that I knew that did good work, kinds of services they offered, budgets, minimum project size, that sort of thing. It's kind of just gone from there. I sold the first lead. Which is not the model anymore, but I just like, one-off like introduction to a friend who runs an agency. And I was like, "Hey man, would you like this introduction to this business?" He's like, "Yeah, I know that business. They're in his town." I was like, "Would you be willing to pay $50 for the intro?" He's like, "Yeah, what's your PayPal?" So 3 minutes later, I had $50 in my PayPal account, sent him the intro. He closed the business. And I went and bought a domain name. And threw it up on some shared hosting that I had at the time. So that was like February 2013, and it just kind of ticked along. I went in house for a couple years, moved from New York to San Francisco, got married, etc., and then got laid off about a year and a half ago, and was like, you know what, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to give it a go. So that was actually like 20 months ago, and so here we are.
Awesome, that's really great. And what I'm sort of hearing from that story is that it sounds like that just a lot of stuff is always kind of shifting at our feet, especially with some of this internet stuff. Like you never know if we get tired of the freelancing or get tired of the job, or if all this SEO. Who knows? Like if Facebook suddenly changes their algorithm, which they do, if Google suddenly changes, which they also
Mhm.
do. So I'm definitely hearing that. At least for me, like it sounds like the lesson here is to like to keep sort of creating new stuff and keep building new stuff, and to sort of be on the lookout for if people are willing to pay you money for something simple, or if there's definitely like a need or like a common headache that needs to be solved. It sounds like this is something that a lot of people need, as far as like SEO agencies looking for those new fresh clients, and then those clients looking to, as you said near the beginning, to not sort of to not like have the cheap cost up front, and then it turns out that the actual cost is in that the work wasn't done, or that they had to wait, or it was a total nightmare. So it sounds like this is a really great service that people need. And so just to make sure that people like get the best use out of your service, have you ever seen sort of like a mistake or some sort of like growing pains or something when someone uses your service for the first time?
Totally. But one thing that I have is that there are a lot of just tire kickers out there. And so people that are, they'll like create a project on the platform and then we'll try to follow up with them and they'll never, never get back to us. I actually had one guy that I called him and he's like, "Who is this?" "Oh, I don't have time to talk to you about that." And I'm like, "You're literally like about to spend thousands of dollars on Facebook ads and you don't have 20 minutes to like talk to me for free so that I can match you up with the right people." So like this is very much an investment. And so, don't look at it as like I contact people, I hire someone and we move forward and I don't have to think about it anymore. Like that's not how business works. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I definitely get the like, just kind of putting the feelers out there, having conversations, that sort of thing, which is, really valuable to know. But be willing to put in the work to find the right person because hiring the wrong agency or consultant can be it's a really expensive mistake if you hire the wrong one. It's not only like money, but it's also time. You can waste a couple months, which is a couple months that you should be spending building your business or working with someone to build your business.
Right, and I can imagine that if someone kind of goes to the wrong place and they waste those couple of months, then maybe they won't be as motivated to start over again, or it might be even worse where there was like no work or unusable work delivered, and then they're still out that money. So then they have to pay like that first initial amount where they hired the wrong person, and then hire the right person. And it's like, well, you could have saved yourself all like those months, all that money, all that stuff just by going to the right place. So really good advice. Putting out feelers are okay, but don't be a tire kicker. And so, is there anything that we can all do sort of on our end to sort of weed out the tire kickers or make sure people aren't tire kickers? So I've noticed that sometimes, like when I have like coaching calls and stuff like that as like bonuses to products, sometimes it feels like a lot of people, like you said, like they'll either flake or when it's time to do the coaching call, they'll say, wait, what a second, and I say like, well, you signed up for this. How do you not remember? So I mean, do you
Hmm.
do you have any sort of thoughts on that as far as like moving forward with your service as far as like weeding out the tire kickers or making sure that people are actually serious when they sign up for things?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, some of that, like, people not remembering that there's a phone call or something like that, like that can be solved with different tools, right? Calendar scheduling tools and whatever. I personally use Calendly. It's a really
Oh
hard
yeah,
name to say, but
I
I
use
use
that too.
Calendly for people to schedule it, and then you can send reminders and that sort of thing. But as far as like weeding out the tire kickers, I mean, one of my favorite strategies when I'm talking to someone about doing consulting for them or trying to help them like figure out what budget that they have, I'll often ask people like, well, have you thought about what budget you have for this project? And they're like, oh, I just want to get like pitches. I just want to get like ballpark numbers. And the thing is, if you don't give a ball, if you just want to get ballpark numbers, most of the numbers you're going to get are going to be way too high. It's just what I've seen like across the board. And so one of my favorite tactics for, as an agency or consultant is if you're an agency or consultant talking with a potential project is to be like, okay, well, if I told you it was going to cost you $10,000, what would you say? Because everyone has a number, even if it's not like I have $2,000 in the budget, right? But if you tell people it's going to cost them 10 grand, you'll learn a lot from their reaction. So people will be like, okay, and you're like, all right, cool, good to know. And others will be like, whoa, 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 that is way too much, right? I was thinking like 1,500. It's like, okay, that's where your like price sensitivity is. Like, that's good to know. And there are people, that will do at least like some subset of the work that you need for that amount of money. But trying to anchor people, and in that one, anchoring them high, because then you get that stronger reaction there, which tells you a lot. And then on the like people flaking out or whatever, people do that when something is free. If you make them pay for something, then it's very different. So I'd be curious with yours, like are people paying you for this? These like coaching calls and whatever. And if they're not, why not, right? Get them just to, even if it's $20, right? If it's worth it to them, they'll be willing to pay $20. They should be willing to pay $200 if you're going to give them $2,000 worth of value. But test making people pay for it because if they don't, then you're going to waste your time on there anyways, and they're not going to become a promoter, or, they're not going to become a fan, or or something like that. So you're better off not even spending your time there.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so like for those coaching calls, those phone calls, those were the kind of thing where it was like a free bonus to a paid product. And so I wonder, like you said, like if I just made it $20 or $50 as sort of an add-on, that could
Yeah,
be very interesting. And I mean, any thoughts on
I
doing?
would I would definitely make it an add-on
Cool.
for sure.
So, any thoughts on doing that sort of thing for Credo, like in the future, like charging some sort of like a setup fee, like ClickBank used to do, just like a one time for that kind of thing?
I've thought about it. I do have that service on the site. Actually, it's kind of buried now. I did a bunch of conversion rate optimization, but I do have a service where someone can basically like create or schedule 30 minutes with me. It's $100, schedule 30 minutes with me, and I go deep with them on what they need. So there is that. I've probably done 10 of those in the last 6 months. Which is cool. And they're all like good budgets, and that sort of thing. But actually, at the very beginning of Credo, I wasn't sure if agencies or the businesses looking to hire someone were going to be my customer, and so I tested out both sides, and very quickly realized that businesses, just like, people don't know how to value their time, right? So if you tell someone like, hey, it'll cost you $50, to have your project defined, they're like, I'll spend the time and I'll go and do the research and find the agencies and contact them and blah blah blah. I'm like, I offered to basically save you 10 hours of work for $50, but like, your choice. If you want to go spend those like, those 10 hours doing doing a ton of research, like, up to you. People just don't know, people don't know how to value their time. Long answer short, it is something that I thought about, not what I'm focusing on right now.
Cool, fair enough. And I think that, yeah, that's a really good point you just made about how, like, some people will say, oh, $50 is so much, but it's like, well, if you want to go and spend 10 hours on your own, then now you're making $5 an hour, or you go to Upwork and maybe you say you pay $45 and get still not the same result. I mean, it makes a lot of sense there, and I really like how your advice is to like throw out a number for a budget. That way, sort of you've sort of started solidifying things, and that way you can get their reaction. I think that that's so true that a lot of people, like, they don't even really know what their, or some of these people, they don't even know what their budget is, and so when things are kind of nebulous and ambiguous and all that, they kind of, you're not really sure what's happening. But as soon as those numbers kind of start getting out there, then now the plans are being solidified. And I really like how it's just a matter of throwing out that estimate and having it sort of on the high end, so that way the reaction is either like, well, if it's too much, and you can like disqualify them, or you can kind of walk down the price as far, and take out some of the service, and it's kind of like a price drop. And it seems like it would be easier to like close the sale that way by like starting high end and sort of dropping it down there. And so, I mean, lots of good stuff, and it's been really entertaining to sort of hear about the way that this system works, and sort of the ins and outs, and like your process for going from the idea to creating it. And I want to make sure that everyone knows how to get on Credo. They all go and they sign up, and they also keep up to date on what it is that you're working on. So can you kind of tell us about the websites people should go to after listening to our conversation today?
Totally. So the business website is getcredo.com, getcredo.com. I'm actually right now, and we're doing this mid to end of May. I'm actually not bringing on new agencies and consultants onto the platform right now. 100% focused on project generation, and getting everyone that's on there more projects. But if you're looking to hire someone, looking to hire an agency or consultant, come on there, create a project on the platform, and either myself or Eric, my account manager, will follow up with you and learn a bit more, and then get you introduced to the right people. If you want to converse with me personally, as you said earlier, my personal website is johnfdoherty.com. It's Doherty.com. Just search my name, John Doherty, and it comes up number one. So that's where I publish. It's more like entrepreneurship sort of focused content there. Now I do some like marketing stuff, but I've kind of gotten away from like the tactical marketing strategy stuff there. So doing a lot more video over there these days as well. And then the best way to get in contact with me personally is Twitter. So it's my last name, DOHERTYJF, John Francis. So Doherty JF. And I spend a lot of time on Twitter, so that's the best place to get in touch.
Fantastic. So I hope that you guys got those URLs. I hope that you're going there right now. That's getcredo.com. And go ahead, and if you need some SEO work done, if you need something done from an agency, Facebook ads, link building, content generation, all that stuff, then go and start a project on getcredo.com. If you want to read about some of that entrepreneurial stuff or watch some cool videos, then go to johnfdoherty.com. And I'm glad that you're ranked number one. I hope so, because you're SEO guy. And go to Twitter, that's DohertyJF, to see what John has going on minute to minute. So I want to thank you, Mr. John, for stopping by the show today and sharing with us some of those trials and tribulations and helping people to get what they need as far as their websites, their search engine ranking, all that fun stuff. So thanks for sharing all that today.
Robert, thanks for having me on. This was fun.
We really appreciate you listening to today's episode of The Robert Plank Show. Subscribe to us on iTunes and rate and review us at robertplank.com/iTunes.